You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kat Ventura, executive producer of Teka Teka News. Scientists expect global temperatures to rise by 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels in the next decade or so. Communities along the coastline are among those directly affected by the impacts of climate change. The Boholanos along Danajon Bank are an example of a coastal community that's already feeling the destructive effects of climate change. But because of their long history with precarious environments, these Boholanos know how to address these changes better than anyone. In part 3 of ang ating Kwentong Klima series of the podcast, A Better Normal, we learned that a crucial way to combat climate change is by allowing island communities to take ownership of their own traditions and livelihood. Here's a snippet from the episode.
To me, definitely. Actually, na-offend talaga ako pag sinasabihan ng island communities as sinking, disappearing, hopeless. Kasi in reality, that's very, very far from the truth. Kasi with the issue of climate change, it's being presented to us as if it's the biggest and only problem of our island communities. And we completely forget their history, where they have been living in such a precarious environment for their entire life, but somehow they are still able to thrive. So definitely there's resilience there. They have done it before, and I'm sure that they can do it again now for climate change.
That was Dr. Loris Hamero. She's an expert on climate change adaptation in small island communities. In fact, she sees this firsthand as she hails from Bohol. She also heads the Resilience Co-Laboratory at the Manila Observatory, where they work with communities to, boost their resilience. Doc Lau's message is an important one to keep in mind as we move through this episode. Yes, there's hardship, and yes, we have to work urgently to improve their economic situation and to support their adaptation to the impacts of climate change. But these communities can and are already acting on the challenges that global warming poses. Pero ano nga ba ang mga pagsubok na ito? Let's go to the science. In the next 10 to 20 years, says Doc Lau, scientists expect that global temperatures will be 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than pre-industrial levels. And that's bad news.
Especially for communities located along coastlines and in small islands, because climate impact drivers along the coast, such as coastal flood and erosion, ocean acidity, marine heat wave, and relative sea level, are all projected to increase with high confidence in the future. So by increase, what we are saying is that they are going to increase both in magnitude and also frequency.
At ngayon pa lang, nararanasan na ng island communities sa Danajon Bank sa Bohol ang mga epektong ito ng climate change. Danajon Bank is only one of 6 double barrier reefs in the world. Basically, it's a rare geological formation.
So back in December 2021, we were directly hit by Super Typhoon Rai here in Bohol. And it really caught us off guard because it rapidly intensified from category 1 to 5 in 24 hours, leaving us very short time to prepare and even evacuate. By the time we received the warning, it was too late, and it was very difficult to cross from the island to the mainland. It arrived here at around 7:30, and it coincided with our peak tide at 9:30, which added another 1.3 meters of water. And so in the small islands in the Danajon Bank, you actually see a lot of damage. And this is mainly because of storm surges reaching up to 4-meter high.
At this point, we already know the context of our island communities. We know that a 1.5 degrees Celsius warming spells disaster for them. We also briefly touched on how they're dealing with it. Laliman pa natin. Tumutunog ngayon ang ecosystems-based adaptation. Basically, it's when the community harnesses the power of nature by restoring and protecting their forests, coral reefs, and mangroves, among others, so that they can adapt to climate change. So, yung mga taga Danajon Bank, 'di ba? Sabi ni Doc Lau, they're already conserving their mangroves and coral reefs. And our other guests are advocates of the same. Here's Candice Mungaya from Rare Philippines. It's a conservation NGO that focuses on municipal fishers.
Many of our coastal LGUs have the capacity na to manage yung kanilang mga yung kanilang municipal waters, like designated which areas should be allowed for fishing, which areas dapat protect for mangrove restoration and coral reef conservation.
Now, our fisher folk may know the importance of conservation, but how do we make sure those in power are on board? Rare Philippines has worked with 75 LGUs. Ito raw ang sikreto, sabi ni Candice.
First thing that we do is really instill like a sense of ownership or pride sa resources that they have in the community, especially po sa ating decision makers like the mayors, yung ating mga municipal agriculture office, yung ating mga municipal fisheries council, who are also active in managing yung mga resources. No? Kasi mas magiging effective po yung kumbaga management strategies nila. May mga sites din po tayo na gumagawa tayo ng mga mascots, ng flagship species ng mga LGUs. Like sa isang LGU po, madami po doong mga rabbit fish. So, pag nakikita po ito ng mga bata, nasasabi nila na, ay, kailangan palang dumami yan kasi yan yung nagbibigay ng kabuhayan kay nanay at tatay. Parang importante po siya, mahalin po natin yung mga isda pong ganito. So, yung ganun po na like, ensuring na yung community po ay may ownership sa resources nila and instilling pride po for them na maging protective sa mga resources. Other than that, napakadami pa po like sa mga LGUs po natin na nasa protected area, kasama po natin yung mga communities at gumagawa po tayo together ng mga jingle tungkol po sa yaman po ng dagat po sa area nila like sa Canyon Strait at kinakanta po yun pati nga po sa mga disco sa fiesta ay piniplay po yun. So can you can only imagine po ano yung mga kasama po natin sa community na in times of celebration they would always be reminded of what they have at saka why it's worth protecting.
Marine protected area sa barangay San Juan, Ermita, sa Sipawi Island, andang panalipdan ang tubig panganak.
Pag proud tayo sa pinagmulan natin, poprotektahan natin ito. And I love how Rare Philippines used mascots and jingles to foster this pride. Very Pinoy, di ba? Parang mascot lang sa fast food joint o jingle ng nangangampanyang politiko. Sa usapin pa rin ng pagmamahal sa pinanggalingan natin, ito ang experience niya tuwing nagmamapa sila ng communities.
Alam natin na they grew up, dyan sila pinanganak, dyan sila nagtatrabaho, pero pag nakita mo na minamapa nila kung ano yung resources na like, hala, ganito pala kadami yung mangroves namin, pero tektahan kami nito ng bagyo. Dito pala yung coral reefs namin. Makikita rin natin mismo sa kanila kung gaano sila ka-proud na, oo nga pala, may ganito nga pala tayo at nakakatulong to for our livelihood and for our food security.
Dagdag ni Doc Lau, mula pa lang sa pagpili kung alin ang protected areas, dapat kasama na ang komunidad. Sila ang nakakaalam ng lugar nila, and involving them in such decisions gives them a sense of responsibility and ownership. Therefore, mas nagiging effective ang programa. And apart from involving them in planning and decision-making, there's also benefits to be had from listening to what they know.
In small islands, they have an entire vocabulary to describe winds and waves. And I was just thinking, what if we document that? What if we know how to utilize that? And in short, we have, kumbaga, real-time local information to supplement whatever we are seeing in our models.
She's talking about weather forecasting here.
They have terms, for example, kanaway. Is from that direction nanggagaling yung wind. It means that a weather system is coming. Balugo means storm surge kasi balugo is they used to describe strong winds na may kasamang malakas na alon. They also have the term walo-walo. So bumagyo, then nagkaroon ng calm, and then babalik yung hangin, much stronger than before. So walwalo is probably their term for yung lull pag nandyan na yung eye wall, the eye of the typhoon. So they have all of this information, but it's not being documented.
You can catch the rest of this episode from A Better Normal on your favorite podcast app. The link to part 3 of this series is in the description of this podcast. This series was supported by the Oscar M. Lopez Center for Climate Change Adaptation in partnership with Asia Society Philippines. Again, I'm Kat Ventura. This episode was edited by Pidoy Blanco. For more explainers on the issues that matter, follow Teka Teka News and The Better Normal on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Maraming salamat po.